Welcome to our fifth and final episode of Critical Misses Season 42. This time we're talking about 1898's War of the Worlds. I'm your host, Boston.
Does it feel weird to say that date?
Yeah, it feels exceptionally far in the past, especially with how this book is written. Which we'll get to in a minute. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moon Pair.
Hi.
And this is our last stop on our trip back through history towards the origin of the War of the Worlds.
History and media. Ooh.
That's right. That's right. So we're here at 1898's H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. A book that I didn't know. So, if you don't listen to any of this season recently, we've already read the book. This isn't going to be a two-part episode. If you haven't read the book and you would like to do so
now.
Yeah, now would be the time to go do it.
And if you are curious, the audiobook version is 6 hours long. So
There you go.
It is a quick fly-through.
Yeah, that's not bad. The book itself actually wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be. I read the unabridged version, and the big thing that I didn't realize going into this was it was a book that was published serially. It looks like it was, from best I could tell, it was released in 3 kind of large chunks. And when I read that, I thought, oh, I know the best way to read this book. I'm going to read this serially as well, except I'm going to read a chapter a day. And that felt like a much better way of reading the book for me personally, because to the best of my knowledge, there isn't any version of this book that tries to modernize the language. And
no,
it's not impossible to get through this language, but I found that I had a atypically short attention span for how this book was written. And 1 chapter a day for me was like, okay, I got through a chapter, I read it, I struggled through some of the language, and I'm gonna hit another one tomorrow.
Yes, and I mean, screw it. We're already on the topic of the language of the book. So, I mean, honestly, the audiobook might do a good job of modernizing that language, because I didn't read the actual book. I listened to the audiobook version.
Sure.
So, different experience possibly. Let's just talk about H.G. Wells off the top here. Because there is a moment, I think, during the first book. It's very early. It's probably during the conversations about the nature of Mars, and I like the fact that they have a clearly incorrect scientific version of what Mars is in the book.
Yes, it's very good.
Which I might have been thought so at the time. I don't know, because I wasn't alive in the 1800s. But when the narrator refers to the quote-unquote lesser races of the Tasmanians, for example, being overrun by colonists, I was like, this is the time for me to pause this book and do a little research on Mr. Wells.
Yeah, right.
Is he writing as a character, or is he writing as himself?
Right, and how much of it was the language of the times? And, like, how much of it is this being an anti-imperialist work as well, and like anti-church too, which we'll get to in a little bit. But
yes, which is ironic, because I think that is a modernist take on it. I think I don't think he was writing it as such. Very much in how Dune is technically officially not anti-imperialist, it's anti-charismatic leaders, aka Hitler kind of thing, which as a byproduct of that is anti-imperialist, but that's what it's mostly about.
Right.
So I did some research on Mr. H.G. Wells here.
Okay.
Did you research much about him?
No.
during this or no? Okay. I got to do the nasty stuff in this case then, so that's good news.
Mm-hmm.
Noted socialist,
Okay.
which I don't have a problem with. I consider myself a
Sure.
democratic socialist, so that's fine. Slight downside of it is he was a Darwinist socialist,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
which means that he was a particular fan at the time of the book of eugenics and involuntary euthanasia to have
Sure.
socialism work.
Right. Not great.
However, however, proof that people can change.
Mm-hmm.
By 1940, he wrote The Rights of Man and had pretty much recanted his entire opinion of that kind of side of
Okay.
himself. So much so that The Rights of Man basically laid the groundwork for the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights,
Oh, interesting. I had
which
no idea about that.
I didn't either. And I
Huh.
was like, okay, this is a person who very clearly grew up in a certain time frame, had a very certain, probably imperialistically fed opinion of other people,
Right.
and literally came around close to the end of his life realizing how wrong he was on the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Interesting. Well,
I'm
good
sure
for
I'm
him.
missing stuff here, but I was like, I literally, as soon as they used the term lesser races in the book, I was like, oh no,
Oh no.
oh no.
Yeah.
Is this an art/artist problem that we're going to have here? And partially, yes, it is, because some of
Right.
the terminology used in this book is problematic as hell. Um, but the dude did incredible
Mm-hmm.
things despite his poor opinion on so many things.
And I'm sure that there's an element too of it being the language of the times and it being the kind of
100%.
the
And it's the Starship Troopers thing we talk about when we talk about that movie. It's like, yeah, you only get to vote if you go and do military service because they can indoctrinate you into the way of thought that they
yeah,
want you to be, and then you get to vote how they want you to vote because they've already brought you into that thing.
right.
Like, let me tell you, growing up in England, they don't tell you about how messed up the English are. Let me tell you that much
Right.
right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting to see the kind of the kind of incorrect notions of Mars being extended to the incorrect notions of other people on the planet that we know little about. Um, and it like nearly getting there of like maybe we shouldn't take over every country on the planet. How's that sound?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe wanton destruction and life killing is wrong.
Right. And it's interesting too because it took me a little while to kind of pin it down here in this book on a similar vein, this sort of like anti-church leaning. It's not outright explicitly anti-church, but I think it's
I the, I think it's as an agnostic, I think it's pro-agnostic, anti-organized religion
I think that's the biggest thing is
because
anti-organized religion because every every religious person that's in like a religious position of power that the narrator runs into is this like helpless, bumbling kind of like, well, I don't have to do anything because God will take care of it. Like
uh
it's this very
or we deserve this because this is what God deemed it to happen in the
exactly
curator's kind of thing. The
right.
curator actually, the curate or however you say it,
Yeah, the
he
curate. Yeah,
swings on both of those sides.
yeah. But like it's funny because the curate, especially to me, is kind of like the turning point of the whole book of like the narrator kind of snapping out of. There's so much of the beginning of this book of like people just going around town saying like
The
Martians.
daily business.
I don't care about the Martians. It's just business
And
as
then
usual.
I will say, and again, I think I think World War Z owes a lot to this book. Again, I'm referencing that because I think the book is written phenomenally well in a past tense, present tense mix,
Yeah.
where the narrator will talk about like at the this is what the heat ray is supposed to have done or how it operates based on what I know now. But at
Right.
the time, all I was thinking was, is how are these idiots going to get out of this pit? They can't
Right.
even move. Like, they're never going to be able to climb out this
Right.
pit
The
kind of
gravity's
thing.
too strong. What are they gonna do? We're
Hmm.
fine. Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting part of the book too, of like, if from what I know now, I know that they were doing X, Y, and Z in that pit. But at the moment, I wasn't really worried. Everyone's just going about their lives. It's just a big old pit in the
Yeah,
forest.
everyone was having tea. I was having dinner with my wife, explaining to her how stupid the Martians are and how they're
Yep.
never going to be a problem. And yeah, we could just fire a shell in there and deal with the whole problem.
Yeah, exactly. Easy peasy. So I thought there was some interesting commentary about both the kind of the business as usual of the kind of everyday lives of everyday people, and then
That in itself, by the way, is a very British thing. It's
that's what I was wondering.
the stiff upper lip thing of like, no, doesn't matter what the hell happens.
Yep,
You stiff upper lip. You get on with your regular
that's right.
day. You do what needs to be done to just plow through the normal stuff, kind of thing. That
Eh,
is quintessentially British or old school British, I should say.
Sure, and there's also an element too of like whatever's happening in London, not my problem. We're not in London.
Yeah.
Whatever, they're fine.
And the people in London being like, whatever happens on Hampstead Heath or whatever, we don't care. That's
Yeah,
nowhere
exactly.
near us.
One of, speaking of that, one of my criticisms of this book, as someone who didn't grow up in England, is
There's
the
no distances. It doesn't tell you how far away things are.
not really distances, but just the one paragraph will be like, and then I went and I crossed Hampstead on Hill, and on the other side is Newcastle, and on the other side is this, and like one paragraph can just be like 15 different locations, and I'm basically like, yeah, cool, okay, I don't
Uh-huh.
I don't know, I don't know what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
like, I appreciate that all the elements of the book as written originally uh, are kept in place. Um, but reading a lot of that stuff was just sort of like, okay, did you walk for 3 days and you got a whole bunch
Hmm.
of distance? Did you walk for 3 days and you basically went to the next town over? Like, I don't, I don't really know, but like,
Yeah. I think like as a northern boy, I think some geography would have been nice. I don't have an issue with the time,
right,
like not saying how long time was, because you get the distinct impression that after like his town comes under attack and everything goes downhill, time kind of doesn't seem to matter in the book, because like
exactly,
I couldn't tell you if this takes place over 3 days, over a month. I
right.
literally couldn't tell you how long this takes place over.
Yeah, and I like that quite a bit because it feels like very much in the moment thing of like, yeah, I did survive it, and I do the narrator through the book references that they did survive uh
Hmm.
the kind of Martian
When he's
attack.
talking to like the artilleryman, the second time he bumps into him, or maybe the third time. But when he talks into him, he's like, "Yeah, I was buried under a house for like 17 days," and the artilleryman's like, "You think it's 17 days, bro?"
Uh-huh.
And he never gives a clear date, but he's like, "It wasn't 17
Right, was
days,
it
my
2
friend."
days? Was it 30 days? Like, has it been months?
Yeah,
Like, I kind of like that kind of
it
unknowable.
leans into the PTSD side of things,
Exactly.
of like, yeah, everyone here has got extreme trauma, and now we've kind of got to deal with it.
Yeah. I do think, that last time that he meets the artilleryman, which I think was so interesting in the Jeff Wayne musicals version, um,
Hmm.
is I think a little too long in this version of like page after page after page of kind of like, and then in the underground, and then we'll build schools, and then we'll do. And it's like, oh, okay, okay, I get it. I like
Yeah.
it. Gives me a lot of
Especially because like in the book, like within the first day, he's like, "Yeah, let's go back to your safe space," and then he's immediately pointing out to himself, "Why didn't you use this building that's closer? Why didn't you do this that's closer? Why
right.
didn't you this X, Y, and Z?" Like you're coming up with a plan and an idea and a thought process that hadn't occurred to me because I haven't given up hope yet.
Hmm.
But you're doing it in the way that someone uneducated it would do it, kind of
Right.
thing.
Right. Um, I do. like there's kind of two things that I like in this version of the book that I missed in a bunch of the other versions. One is the look of the tripods themselves. We saw this a
Hmm.
little bit in the Tom Cruise movie, where they have like wires and stuff hanging off of them.
Yes.
I really like that visual of them not being these kind of sleek things. In the 2025 and in the
Hmm.
BBC miniseries, we saw that where they're like these kind of sleek machines. I like that they have things hanging off of them.
Accoutrement.
Yeah, it almost seems like, when you see Swamp Thing come out of a swamp and he has, seaweed and moss and stuff hanging off him. It's that kind of idea of like they came out of something else and they still have that kind of
Yes.
connective wiring attached to them. Um, and
I
then,
also like the fact that like they're referred to, the common nomenclature for them has become tripods,
mhm,
but in the book he just refers to them as fighting machines.
right.
Like I think that's a genuinely fantastic little touch where it's like, yeah, everyone calls them tripods because that's what they are, but also the book just always refers to them as fighting machines. That's it.
Yeah. And I also like that the book goes into way more detail about the Martians themselves outside of the
Yeah.
machines.
This is the thing that I think is missing from every other representation of it.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that he's like the narrator explains that like when they investigated the cylinders, which I don't care if it was a ball in the
Yeah, that's
miniseries. I
that ball
don't
looks
care
cool
if they
though.
were already here in yes it does. I don't care if they were they were already here in the movie. None of that stuff bothers me at all.
Yeah.
But like the fact that he describes like they found Martian life forms inside the cylinders, which were clearly brought as food. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, show me this stuff,
Yeah.
please.
Or like how the Martians are basically giant walking brains with
Uh huh.
like super tiny other organs, and that's why they had a little bit of a hard time kind of propelling themselves out of the pit that they were in. Like when the narrator and the curate are stuck under that house for however long. I love that the narrator is just spending most of his time studying what they look
Yeah,
like, how they
staring out
move.
that window,
Yeah, like I think that's so cool, and like we saw a little bit of that in the
figuring out how they
movie.
eat in that case too.
Yeah, and like we saw a little bit of that in the movie, but I agree with you. Like not enough to make it seem as interesting as it does in the book. Um,
But like that's also a great example of like the past tense, pretense,
mhm.
past tense, current tense nature of the book, where he goes into this huge breakdown like of Martian biology when he's in that in with the curate under the house. And then he explains, but I didn't know this because it wasn't until like 2 days later that I saw them feed for the first time.
Right.
And it's like when I saw the boy killed, and it's like, oh, then I didn't want to look at the window for like 2 full days because
Yeah.
like this is not. It's a really cool like accounting, and the fact that he uses in law things too, where he's like, yeah, there's this pamphlet, and like it does a good job of describing like the Martians, but whoever the artist he got to do the fighting machine was terrible because it doesn't do it justice, kind of
Right.
thing. So like the rest of it's great. That part is terrible, so maybe
Yeah.
don't pay attention to that drawing.
Yeah. And related to that scene of them in the like the basement underneath the house, I was kind of impressed at how close the scene from the 2005 Tom Cruise movie was to that basement scene with the tentacles kind of hunting and searching for them in the basement.
Yes.
I was surprised reading that, being like, wow, okay, that the 2005 movie is more faithful to the book than expected. I don't know. I don't want to say like
Mhm.
more faithful than all the others. That's I don't like we said earlier. I
Yes.
don't care. But like that was really interesting to see that, and then I still really love the narrator just getting really tired of the curate and just bonking him over the head and being like, okay, I'm done with this dude. He's eating all my food. All he's
Mm-hmm.
doing is crying day after day
Crying and drinking, going after the booze
and
time after
yelling,
time.
like yelling too
Yes.
loud. Like the Martians are literally right outside, bro. Like you need to shut the hell up. Um, and then like,
I wanna know more about like the thing that they see while they're in the house too, like the whatever the machine is that seems to be creating things like
yeah,
outside of the window. Like, show me that, please.
yeah,
No other
exactly.
version. Everyone is so focused on the tripods that they never show all of this other stuff that's
Yeah,
included in the book.
yeah. Um, I also appreciate too that now reading the book, I understand the almost anticlimactic ending to all of the other stuff because that's just the book. The book is like,
Yep.
yeah, man, one day they just died. It was microorganisms, and
Hmm.
that was it. Are they going to come back? I don't know. They're not here
And again,
anymore.
it's like survive. It's like the survivor story version of it,
Yeah,
which I think the other representation of it is very good too. Where it's like, this isn't about the leaders of the armies. This isn't about a
right.
front man fighting along the wall. This is literally Joe Schmo,
Yep,
who happens to have survived through luck and ability and pure accidental survival skills,
yep,
and because of that, this is the account that you get, and I like that
yeah.
too. Also, the reference in the basement scene as well from the movie, where they spin the bike wheel, because it's very
Uh
pointed
huh.
in the book that they don't use wheels.
Yep,
Like, none of their technology is wheel based,
yep.
which is
Um,
weird for a society that sent cylinders.
yeah. It's also interesting too that the book, as much as the end of the book is sort of like, yeah, man, I think like millions of people died. Like it was real bad, man. And he does get reunited with his wife in the end,
Uh-huh.
which I think is also interesting with the Tom Cruise movie where, his son is there suddenly at the end and people are like, that's ridiculous. Like, how does his son get back there? It's like, who cares? Like,
It
it's
doesn't really
mirroring the
matter.
book. Like, how does his wife get
Mm-hmm.
there? I don't know. She wasn't part of this book except for like the
Yep.
beginning and the end. It wasn't her story.
And I do love the fact that, like, it's I didn't, so I listened because we took a little bit of a break between these because I've been sick. I listened to the book like three times, and I love the fact that right at the start of the book he talks about he gets the cart from the
The
owner, I
tavern
think it's the
owner, I
pub
think.
owner.
Yeah.
Yes, and he pays him like 2 shillings, and he says he'll bring it back that night,
Yeah.
or he'll bring it back that day. But he's just loading it up with like his wife, his servant, and so on and so forth, and they go.
Hmm.
And then he drops them off. He drops everybody off with his cousin, and then turns around to take the cart back.
Right.
If he hadn't have taken the cart back, he would have just got to the end of the book.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, it's a really interesting little thing where he's like, "Yeah, I wish I hadn't promised that I'd take the cart back, but
I had
you
to
got to
do the
do
right
what you got to
thing.
do."
Yeah.
Uh huh.
Um, what other notes do you have for this? Because I feel like I've kind of talked about most of the big points from my notes here.
We already talked about the Weaver creature,
Hmm.
which because I'm a dork for the Halo lore, it reminds me of the engineers from Halo who
Yeah.
are like mentioned in the books quite a lot and never in the video games except for ODST. I think they're in that.
Right.
Um, I think it does. There, you mentioned earlier that it it does a lot of business as usual thing
Hmm.
at the start of the book. The note I had for that was lots and lots of build up and hand wavy reactions to a true horror. Open brackets. COVID anyone? Close brackets.
Yeah. Like it.
Like,
It's so funny because so many of the scenes are like, cool. I understand there are Martians. They're attacking. Whatever. I can't take the train. The train isn't running. What are we gonna do?
uh-huh.
It's like, oh,
I have to get to work. What's
right.
going on?
Exactly.
And like, I, it's. I think it's very interesting because not specifically this book, but I know I can't remember the other author's name, but I know H.G. Wells and iRobot guy. Can't remember his name.
Asimov.
Thank you. H.G. Wells and Asimov are widely regarded as like the fathers of sci-fi kind of thing.
Right.
I can kind of see why, because like he's imagining things here that like he's got no rights imagining things like the way he does.
Yeah.
Even a throwaway line at the end of the book where he's like, "Yeah, we tried to investigate how the heat ray worked, but there was accidents at the research facilities in like Derby and Penfield,
Mm-hmm.
so nobody's bothering down that path anymore." And it's like, yeah, bro, probably wouldn't, considering it's probably a crater in the floor
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
it's shocking as to how aware of the actions of humans he is. Like how
Yes.
very human the book feels. Like it's like, yeah, these people would get on with their life normally until they're all wiped out by a black smoke that
Right.
overrides everything that they do, you know?
Yeah, it's so interesting, like reading this and trying to imagine that, like, as you're racing towards the year 1900, how mind
And
blowing.
tensions are rising as well at that point
Yeah.
too, because all of the powers are coming in, or the superpowers are being birthed at that time too.
Right.
You know, there's even throwaway lines at the start of the book about the tensions about rising potential wars going on.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, bro, World War One is literally right around the corner.
And
Like,
like
you
to
don't know it
read
yet.
in a magazine, this dude wrote a book about Martians coming and invading with giant walking machines and cylinders and heat rays and all of that. Like, it to me it the only thing I could put myself in the shoes of is when the Blair Witch Project came out, and we were just like, dude, is this for real? It can't be for real. But like it looks pretty real.
Yes.
Like, you just kind of shot this thing? Is that, it's this sort of moment of like, you you have told a new story, or at least an old story in a new way, and
Mm-hmm.
this book seems a lot like you told a new story in a new way, and I
Oh,
definitely.
100%. Like even to this day, like that, it still shocks me how well it is told. Like I said,
Yes.
the post pre telling and the intermingling of both sides of the opinion kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've ever seen anybody, like I don't think I've read a book that tells this kind of story this well from that after the fact but during the fact kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not flowery, it's just full of emotion. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing that I think makes it stand out to me, is like how, like I said, how human it is, because he does such an incredible job of being like, yeah, I can't even describe the horror. Horror is the word I've got for it,
Yeah.
but it was elevated so far beyond that. I don't even know what to call it anymore.
And it's so great to read a book like this where it's like the narrator is not the doom marine going like aliens on my planet.
Yes.
Like he's just like, okay, I saw an alien, I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna be bad about it, and I'm going to almost drown myself because I was not
Several
prepared.
times.
Yeah, like I was not prepared for the water or the temperature or my clothes, or like he's not good. He's not like
No.
the artilleryman was going to be better at fighting the Martians than the narrator is. A narrator, like,
He even mentions that when the artilleryman like bumps into his garden, and he's like, "Yeah, I was just gonna leave," but then the artilleryman was like, "No, bro, food, pockets,
right.
let's go."
That's right. Yeah, like, and it's refreshing to read. The narrator is not a
Like,
bad.
it's not a hero's journey.
No,
Like,
and
it's
he's
just
like
not.
not a bad guy. He feels like a human guy. Like he knocks out the curate and feels badly about it, but kind of not that badly when he gets stolen, when the curate gets taken.
Yeah, but then it haunts him afterwards.
Right. And he's
Like
like he's like
like
I did the right thing, I think, but I still feel pretty terribly about it, but I survived, which is good, I think. And I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
that reads as a human reaction to that especially in direct contrast to the Martians, which is like, hey, we brought a bunch of these tiny Martians, we're eating them. We're just mush them in a
Yeah.
goo and we're slurping that up. Yay! And it's just like, oh, okay.
And I like how his arrival in London is described too. Like, you can tell it's a man who definitely loves his London. And London is a beautiful city, just like New York City is a beautiful city. There have been changes in both of those cities and San Francisco over the past 20 years that have made things problematic, to say the least, as billionaires move in and regular people move out.
Right.
But like his description, like he refers to London as the mother of cities, which I
Right.
think is a wonderfully poetic phrase.
Right.
Like I mean, I would argue that Athens is maybe, you know, the mother of
Sure.
cities, or Rome,
Right.
but with a little bit of English pride, it's like, yeah, okay, that at that time of like human history, yeah, it was probably London was the mother of cities,
Yeah.
because everything went through England in one way
Right.
or another. And like his description of like seeing it without the smoke and the fog of all the
Yeah.
coal and the steam and everything else.
That was a cool part.
And then he sees like the Martian, like, and he doesn't realize it's dying, but he's like, yeah, I kind of had enough. I was done, so I just walked straight towards that guy as if to say, please kill me,
Right.
please. I've had enough of this. I
Yeah.
just want to die. And that's like his end of the rope moment is the moment when he realizes that technically he's won.
Yeah.
And again, the post pre-telling nature of it, it's great because he's like, yeah, separate from this, the day before, in fact, people had already discovered this stuff and started sending messages out to like the rest of the world. Like France was already in the process of sending food over.
Right.
Like I figured it out, but I wasn't the first. It was this other guy who was widely regarded as the first.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like a problem I had with the 2005 Tom Cruise movie, of Tom Cruise being the first person to notice the birds landing on the tripod, so their shields were down. It's like, that shouldn't have been him, man. That's not his story.
No,
Yeah.
it should have been much cooler. It should have been like, I mean, I ideally it should have been one of the kids.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the daughter.
Yeah. So like my overall thoughts on this is I didn't love the book. I liked it. I think it's really solid. I think when you look at it through the lens of it being such a foundational science fiction book, I think you can see where it is groundbreaking, especially with it being released as a serial, like being such a kind of gripping tale. I think part of my troubles with the book was language, but I mean, there's hundreds of years that are separating us and this book, and a radically different version of English that we are currently speaking versus this book. But I thought it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. I was expecting to go in here and just be like the driest book I've ever read, but I liked it overall. I kind of wish I loved it more than I did, but it is impressively foundational.
Yes, I think that that is the correct term for it. Foundational is definitely the word for this book. I will say, like, if you get the chance, bro, you should totally give the audiobook a listen. Like,
I should,
it's
yeah.
told phenomenally well.
Yeah.
And slight bias on my side, it's also told by the same dude who reads Dune.
Oh,
He
nice.
must have just had a career of doing it at the time.
That's
so
right.
it feels weird to me not hearing Paul every 2 seconds
Right.
when I'm listening to it.
Right.
But I think the audiobook is genuinely pretty solid.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's season 42, our kind of backwards trip through time, our own narrator's journey of meeting this book and knowing what happens at the same time. If you'd like to support this show and you'd like to hear the in-between season production meeting where we kind of talk about what we're doing for next season, we plan a bunch of seasons, that we're thinking about doing. We ask for help for various things. Please go join our Patreon page. That's at the $5 tier or higher. And join at patreon.com/E1M1 or E1M1.cash.
Those ones are the numerical digits. One.
And all of the info is over there. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We do greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Boy.